My name is Thomas Gungor, and in today's episode of PolyAnalytik's GPC Education Series, I will be reviewing some tips and tricks for long-term GPC column health. A critical starting point when structuring your GPC setup is to dedicate your column or your series of columns to a particular mobile phase, long-term. For example, this particular column is a GMHHR GPC column, and it can tolerate various nonpolar organic solvents, but for my project, I want to dedicate it to THF in particular. Going forward, I would set this column in THF, and I would label it as a THF GPC column and avoid switching it to other nonpolar organics such as toluene or chloroform. Secondly, when you are not using a GPC column, it must be stored properly for long-term use. For example, if your column is set in an eluent with a salt such as sodium nitrate and water or lithium bromide and DMF, you must ensure to flush that column before you remove it from the GPC system with pure solvent. Also, do not store a GPC column in a hot or sunny place or in a freezer or a fridge. You should store a GPC column in a drawer at ambient conditions and ensure that the caps, the screw-on caps, are securely fastened. If either screw cap is loose, the eluent within the column can evaporate or seep out, which can dry out the GPC column. This will permanently damage the GPC column, rendering it useless. There is one exception to not storing GPC columns in salty mobile phase, and that's by adding a little bit of sodium azide to an aqueous column. The reason for the sodium azide is to reduce bacterial growth and it acts as an anti-fouling agent. Thirdly, it's highly recommended to install a guard column or a pre-column inline filter before your GPC column while you're running your GPC system. The purpose of a guard column or inline filter is to capture any particulate matter or large aggregates that might clog up your GPC column and ultimately reduce its resolution over time. Impurities can work their way into the system either from the eluent or the sample itself after injection. What these guard columns and filters do is they capture them and ultimately do have to replace the guard column, but it's much more affordable to replace a guard column or a filter as opposed to an entire GPC column. Fourthly, even when a GPC guard column or a filter is used, over time, polymers and particulate matter can still build up on the stationary phase of your GPC column, slowly clogging it up. You can confirm that a GPC column is clogged by the gradual increase in GPC system pressure over time. The way that you can ameliorate this issue is by flushing out the impurities from the column, by reversing the column, which is flipping it on the system and reinstalling it, and flushing a pure solvent through it for about 2 hours at a low flow rate. Solvent switching is another area where GPC column health is something you should keep in mind. It's not ideal to change a GPC column's mobile phase often, but it's something that GPC labs often do to cut down costs and the number of columns they need for their analysis. The two major points to keep in mind for a solvent switch are A, to ensure that the GPC column can tolerate the new solvent, and B, to ensure that the two solvents are miscible with each other fully. Lastly, you want to make sure that if there are any salts involved, that they do not precipitate out during the solvent switch. However, this particular discussion will be more fully detailed in a follow-up episode on changing solvents on systems. And if you're interested in finding the right GPC column for your application, please feel free to reach out to me at thomas.gungor@polyanalytik.com, and I can connect you with the right TSK gel TOSO column for your needs.